On January 8th, at noon, I tweeted this message. It was an invitation to play Pokemon Red in my Twitter profile picture. At first, only a few people tried. I was skeptical this would even work. The tweet gathered a few hundred likes, and when I went to bed that night, only one person was playing. Waking up the next morning, I noticed we were still stuck between Pallet Town and Viridian City. I simply guessed that nobody was playing, so the character had not moved during the night. But it was actually the opposite. I looked at my tweet and it had received thousands of likes overnight. Hundreds of people were commenting. We were struggling to push the character forward. Currently, this tweet has been commented more than 68,000 times, and the players are now in Celadon City. This is how I made thousands of people play Pokemon Red in my Twitter profile picture. Basically, this project is like any other emulator. The major difference here is pretty straightforward. Both input and output are replaced with a request to the Twitter API. For those who don't know, an API is basically a server to which you can send requests to do things on a website through code. Okay, let's get technical. I wanted to do this project quite fast, and did not really want to build a whole emulator myself. So I began looking for an open source emulator made in C#. I needed something that could run in a Linux terminal, mostly because I did not want to run the game 24/7 on my home computer. There is actually one emulator that checked all those boxes. Its name is Coreboy. Let's start with the output. I used the command line version of Coreboy as a base. It was super easy to modify, as the screen was just ASCII art printed into the terminal. All I did was to skip this last part, and save the image after a small upscaling. After that, all I had to do was to send a request with this new image to the Twitter account API to change the profile picture. For the inputs, it's a bit more complex. The easiest way I found to get the comments of a tweet is to use the mention API. What it does is that it returns the last tweets you were mentioning. This can be any reply to any of your tweets, or anytime someone tags you. You can provide the ID of a tweet when sending this request, and the API will only returns the tweets that are newer than the one you sent. This is why I made sure to only look for comments that were not used before. Luckily for me, when getting a tweet from the API, each tweet has the ID of the tweet it is a reply to, if it's a reply. So all I had to do next was to loop through all the tweets I had received and check if the ID is the one from the tweet I wanted people to comment on. Once that was done, all that was left was to transfer the comments. To do this, I cut every comment from the start to the first place character, transform all that to uppercase, and compare it to a sort of translation table that contains all the Game Boy buttons value. After that, I simply chose the most popular comments since the last time and sent it to the emulator. And that's a wrap up. As you can see, this was actually not too hard to pull off. For those interested in doing the same thing, I've included a link to the GitHub project in the video description. It contains all the source code and the instruction to run it, as well as a precompiled executable for Windows. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching.